Good afternoon and a warm welcome to all dignitaries on the Team Elle platform, our mentors, teachers, and students across Maharashtra. Team Elle presents day 11 of the third webinar series, a demonstration by designer. Today, I am honored to welcome a young, dynamic, multifaceted personality who, a teacher, trainer, and a ELT consultant for teachers, training projects of Government of Maharashtra and State Institute for English from Maharashtra. Also, he's also a journalist, techno wizard, a nature lover, and a wildlife photographer. None other than Shri Nadeem Khan, sir. To start with his introduction, he started his schooling from Samartha Vidyalaya, Lucknow, graduation from J.M. Patel College, Bhandara. He has completed his MA, B.Ed, M.Phil. He is currently pursuing his PhD from Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, Marathwada University, Aurangabad. His area of research is use of blended digital content to personalize English language learning in secondary schools of Maharashtra. He is working in Nutan Kanya Junior College, Bhandara since 2009. He is a treasurer of INEC Association of English Teachers. He is a project team member of INET Connect and is a teacher researcher with INET TRI, which is Teachers Research Initiative. He is a member language book 6 to 12, Bharti Yuvak Bharti. He is also an academic coordinator with Samagra Shiksha, which is Rashtriya Madhyamik Shiksha Abhiyan. He is also the academic coordinator of CHESS, which is Continuous Help to Teacher of English from Secondary Schools. He is also academic coordinator for SIEM Aurangabad, that is English Working Online Projects, which is SIM is the State Institute of English for Maharashtra. He has also worked with Tata Trust and academic resource person of Government of Maharashtra, also the resource person of Rashtriya Madhyamik Shikshan Abhiyan, and he's also worked for British Council, the CHESS project, which is continuous help to teachers for English from secondary schools. He has also taught in J.M. Patel College, Bhandara. He is a certified trainer of English and Foreign Language University, EFLU, Hyderabad, working on RELO, India Scholarship. Before becoming a teacher, he was a professional journalist working for Lokmat Times, The Hitwada, NT Nagpur Today, Nagpur's daily e-newspaper. He has also worked for News 24 and CNN and IBN. He is an active member of BTC and TM, which is Active Teachers of Maharashtra, also a member of IATEFL Associate, which is International Association of Teachers of English as a Foreign Language, and also a member of TESOL, International Association. He is a promoter of ProWiggle, which is a learning forum for IT nerds. He has participated online teaching for Project Takuma, which teaches free quality education for refugees. And one more project which he is member is Sustainable Development Goals, which is a blueprint to achieve better and more sustainable future for all. He is a member of District Tiger Cell, and he also works with Wild Watch Foundation, which is an NGO community which works around tiger reserves. He is also a member of Navegaon Nagzira Tiger Reserve. Last but not the least, he is a well-known wild photographer. I now welcome Shri Nadeem Khan sir to take over the control to deal with the topic close to his heart. The platform is all yours, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Sorry, audiences, for keeping you waiting all the time. Yeah, can I have the controls to share the screen?
No, let it be.
Yes, sir, now you can.
Thank you very much. You have made me the co-host, sir.
Yes, sir.
But these all these notifications will come up over the screen.
Okay. I will run it.
Okay.
This, I have to allow record.
No, allow the participants in the share screen option. There is one arrow.
Yeah, got it.
So it's done.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope the screen is visible to you.
Yes, sir. It is quite
Yeah.
visible.
Thank you very much, sir. I thank LA team for calling me up to deliver this webinar on one of my favorite topics, that is wildlife. And this year, uh, we have this story, Into the Wild. And this lesson actually consists of two parts. So I'm dealing with the first part today that belongs to Sakha Nagzira, a book by Kiran Purandare. So let's begin our safari, as Arvind sir said. So this is our trail today. I will walk you through the background of this story. Then we will discuss together while walking on this trail some elements of the story and what activities as a lesson when we are dealing with this story in our classrooms, what activities are given there and what could be certain adaptations. Then we will towards the end we will discuss some questions from the attendees. And actually, in today's presentation, I will ask some more questions rather than answering your questions. So I hope there will be a lot of discussion happening over there. So I believe in this quote, and I also feel that you will all be agree with this. I will read it for you. We are all storytellers. We all live in a network of stories. There isn't a stronger connection between people than storytelling. Jimmy Smith is the founder of the International Council of Storytellers. So let's see the background of the story, and in this background part, we will see more about the title, the author, and the backdrop of the story. Now, when we see the title, Into the Wild, this is very famous title, and first it brings these pictures in my mind when I say Into the Wild. So one is the very popular series on National Geographic. It's by Bear Grylls, and he keeps inviting people, celebrities like Vladimir Putin, Honorable PM Narendra Modi, and recently there was superstar Rajnikant on this show. So Into the Wild or Man vs. Wild are famous series names on TV channel, very popular. Another is a book and also a motion picture by one author called Crocker, and he had written a story. It's a riveting tale about a person whose name is Christopher McCandles. He leaves Virginia, America, and goes to Alaska and leaves everything. And he gets lost in that jungle. And then that is the story of how he is rescued from that jungle. So our today's lesson is almost similar, and these stories have always fascinated us, like from Boccaccio's Decameron and Chaucer's Canterbury Tales to the greatest works of Anton Chekhov and Guru Rabindranath Tagore. We always love to escape to the storylands because these give us a strong feeling of escapism and romanticism. And as a teacher, we have to wear many different hats, and we often have to wear the hat of storyteller in our classroom. So, as a teacher, we have to be a good and impressive storyteller. So, speaking about the author, this is Mr. Kiran Purandare. Basically, he is from Pune, and presently he is the honorary wildlife warden of Pune district. And we can see the better half of Kiranda. We called Kiran, the children call Kiran Purandare sir as Kika, Kiran Kaka. And he runs his own Kika's Bird Club there in Pune, and he organizes different activities. So earlier, Kiran Purandare sir, or I would call him Kika, had come over to Nagzira. But now he is better off. Anaga madam has also come to Nagzira. There is a small village called Pitizeri. The reference to that village is also there in the story, and they have settled over there. Along with Kika, you can see nature guide. He is Rupchand Balavi from Pitizeri, Nagzira. So all these are very, very famous characters from his book, this Sakha Nagzira. So these are some snapshots, and I was very fortunate to have met Kiran Dada in the wilderness some, I would say, 12 to 14 years back. So he was there. Uh, he was there in one hide. Hide is a kind of place where you can hide behind the bushes and you can observe the plants and the birds and the mammals coming to the water hole. So, being somewhat of a wanderer myself, I was excited to finally read Sakha Nagzira by Kiran Purandare. And this is a true story about a man in his prime youth who leaves his home in Pune to wander the forests alone with no money, no plan, and no destination.
Thank you.
Uh, he's, he spent more than 400 days in the wilds of Nagzira Wildlife Sanctuary. And this sanctuary is locked in the arms of nature in Bandara district, that is my place, and it is home to rich flora and fauna. Kikau follows his journey through the wild trails of Nagzira forest, and in this piece that we are dealing with in the lesson, this is taken from Sakha Nagzira book. He has pieced together the details and his experiences in the wild. So he's an exceptionally talented storyteller, and he's like we call him Aulia Manus in Marathi, and he's embodiment of wildness. And when it comes to the flora and fauna, his words are a rare blend of different dialects of Marathi and Gondi, because there are people from Gondi culture living around these forests. So I was struggling to find the matching words when it come to the translation, and his writing and mechanics are flawless in Sakha Nagzira. And what we have as a Board of Studies and English Language Committee group, we have tried to do justice to his work. So, and this story is short, but it's a strong narrative that underlines a reality that nature is magnanimous and every next moment is uncertain, and not to give up even if you are lost or even if you are hardest hit. Into the Wild is a riveting tale about nature freak Kika, who is a specialist in his passion and profession, because his passion and profession are the same, and he gave up what he had, but he didn't give up the hope to reach his destination in the story. So this is a story of struggle and success, and that is the best tip one can give us to survive into the wild. Structurally, this can be called a combination of an anecdote and a story sequence, because these two are different story formats, anecdote and story sequence, where anecdote is a short account of something interesting and amusing, and which usually tells a story about a real person or incident. And story sequence, because this is taken from Sakha Nagzira, and this is the original preface to that story, Mi Vat Chukulo Tema. So I will keep it on the screen for 1 minute, and then you can read and you can find out the rich Marathi diction he has used, and it was very tough job to match this. So I will keep it here for 1 more minute so that you can read. So many adjectives, many colloquial words, and very interesting way to tell this. And those who like this lesson in English, if you read the original Marathi from the Sakha Nagzira book, I bet you will forget this English article writing. So let's go to our next point, that is the elements of the story. So as a teacher, the best way to teach people is by telling a story, says Kenneth Blanchard, a famous storyteller himself. So these are different elements of the story, and we will see how these have come up here in this story Into the Wild. So we all know these three things: the plot and structure, the character, the setting, because we have studied all these in our college years. So let's see about the plot. The plot is the main sequence of events that makes up any story. So while teaching short stories or teaching this story, you can ask exploring questions about the plot in the classroom. So we will also see different stages of teaching later in the latter half of this presentation. The plot is usually centered around one experience or significant moment. Now you can consider these questions while teaching Into the Wild in your classrooms, like what is the most important event in the story? So if you are able to type, can you just type in the chat box the most important event in the story? What is this plot about? Yes, Murad Khetani has said, yeah, Gopal Patil, yeah, Lost in the Jungle. So we are dealing with the first part, and Bina ma'am, Scarface is the second part, that is Shah's Jung story. We are dealing with the Kiran Purandare story. Okay, many answers regarding climax, but we haven't reached the climax yet. So the plot is about a person who gets lost into the wild, into the jungle. So that is the most important event in this story. Okay. So, and we can also ask questions like, how is the plot structured? Is it linear, chronological, or does it move around? So in my opinion, it is chronological, because one after the other, there are different events happening over there. And is the plot believable? Yes, of course, it's a true story. So when we say that it has a plot, a short story like this, there are certain important points to consider according to the structure, and these are the conflict, climax, and resolution. In every story, these are there. So conflict, or we also call it a tension, is usually the heart of the story and is related to the main character. And in our story, there is one main struggle, finding the way out. Always, he's from the start till the end, he's always finding the way because he's lost. So, how would you describe the main conflict? Like how the conflict started? Can I get some answers in the chat box? I hope you all have read the story. This is a story where Kika gets lost in the jungle while returning from one of the water holes in the Umbarjara region, and he then takes a wrong turn and he gets lost, and suddenly there is a movement of predator in the jungle, and in the jungle he listens to the bird calls and the langur calls and all sorts of calls that happen there in the jungle when there is a predator's movement. And then he goes on searching for the right trail. Then he finds his west direction. A sunset is happening over there. He meets a person from nearby village, and from there he climbs down the wrong path and finds the right one. And finally he hears the sound over the audio phone over the mic over there, coming from the village, and he finds his home way back. So this is the story. So the conflict is when he starts, he takes the wrong turn or he takes the wrong route. That is the beginning of the conflict. Like uh, uh, he loses his way. Then is it an internal conflict with the character? No, there is that is not an internal conflict. Some may say yes that his decision was wrong, but that is not an internal conflict. It's an external conflict caused by the surroundings or environment because he was in the jungle and all things look alike when we are in jungle. Speaking about the climax is the point of greatest tension or intensity in the short story, and it is the peak from where the story turns. It can also be the point where events take a major turn and we come towards the conclusion. We call it resolution because it is happy ending. So can you tell me, if you have the textbooks with you, when does the climax take place in our story? And I'm waiting for your responses in the chat.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Yeah,
Hello, it's Neeta Bala.
yeah.
Exactly what I think so that it might be the arrival of the predator, and when this person was able to listen the different sounds that was coming from the bird and from the langur and all, and at that time it was exactly an alarming sound for himself too, that as soon as the predator is entering into that particular setting. So I think it might be the climax.
This is the part of conflict, I will say, ma'am, because there the uh, complication begins. So after exposition, this is the part of complication. So we haven't reached the climax yet when these things are happening, the entry of predator. Any other? Yeah, I have got one answer. Yeah, I will refer you to the page number 58 if you have it. When he has, when he speaks to himself, he says, "Turn back to the trail you left," and that is the peak. And this is on page number 58 of the book. Not exactly seeing the man. Just exactly when he asked himself, he talks to himself, and his inner voice says, "Turn back to the trail you left." And then he walks back. He climbs down. And this is the height, this is the peak from where the things turn, things change. Thank you very much all for your responses. And the resolution is the end of the story, and it focuses on how the conflict is ultimately resolved. So, are the closing sentences, speaking about resolution, again, go back to the lesson. Are the closing sentences significant? How does the end relate or connect to the opening? What do you think? I will read the last sentences for you from the book. The last sentences are: lying awake, looking at the star-studded sky, I spoke to myself, there still exists a jungle where we can get lost. Isn't this our good luck? Do you remember this sentence? This is the last sentence. And this sentence gives us food for thought that yes, despite having playing an important part in deteriorating all the jungles, the nature throughout the world, in many countries, many places, there still exists a jungle where we can get lost. And this is our good luck, yes. So this is all a food for thought and gives us a chance to retrospect our activities, our the meaning of our existence, human existence. Now, this was about the plot. Let's move to the characterization in the story. So characterization deals with how the characters in the story are described. Okay. Uh, Actually, usually in short stories, there are usually fewer characters compared to a novel. But short story is essentially not a short form of a novel. We had other sessions as well on novel. So these stories or short stories usually focus on one central character or protagonist, and we can ask more probing questions so that we can discuss and we can get more speaking prompts, like who is the main character, and are there any supporting characters in the story, and are the main character and other characters, they have any kind of exchange of dialogue? How do they express themselves by the way they speak? Any dialect is used or slang, for example? And what types of characters are there? What qualities stand out, and are there some stereotype characters? So we can say we can get the response, as this is just my opinion, that many would say no. Thank you. And we can also ask the students, as they already know that this is a true story, no doubt, but we still can we can ask them whether these characters are really believable, and do they symbolize something. So these are some very important or valid points that come to our mind when we are talking any true story. We think more about the character. So there is a lot of scope for discussion in the classrooms, and speaking and discussion prompts are also there in the, what we can say, the story. Yeah, this video is bugging me. Can you please, admin, Vivo 1714, can you please turn off the video? Okay. Thank you very much, and sorry. So now let's come to, we have seen the plot, the characterization. Now let's come to the setting part. Setting is a description of events, or where and when the story is taking place. And in any story, there are fewer settings compared to the novel. Again, I'm bringing this part, and there is a limited time and limited characters. So when it comes to discuss about settings, actually these are the inbuilt things, and I'm not going to teach these things explicitly when I'm dealing this with in my classroom. But these probing questions, these exploratory questions, can have an impact on overall understanding or overall comprehension of the lesson at this level. And I guess we are not preparing students for only IITs and JEEs. Some will become good authors and good writers, I believe. So it's good to bring in, since we are already having the literature part in our syllabus, it's good to bring in these background points, background bullets in our teaching. Like when we are dealing with a story or a short story, we should have some discussion about the setting, the plot, and the characterization. You may differ, you may have some other opinion, but this is my personal perception. So we can ask them to consider the setting, and we can ask how the setting is created. We can consider the geography, weather, time of the day, the stories like written, the conditions, and what role does setting play in the story? Is it an important part of the plot or theme, or is it just a backdrop against which the action is taking place? And is the setting changing in different scenes or different occasions or chapters? And if it is changing, why? So we can study the time period, which is also part of the setting, and ask questions like when was the story written? What do you think? Where is it taking place? Is it present or the past, or is it the story in future? And we can also discuss about unity of time, that how does the time period affect the behavior, the atmosphere, or social circumstances. Like we can say the playing of sound over a mic from a village in a marriage or in a ceremony. This is an indicator of particular cultural setup and particular time setup as well. So all these minor elements in the story, we can pick it up and we can connect it to explain this. I believe that the elements of the story are all means to an end. These are my personal observations, and the plot is confined to the essentials, the characters to the indispensables, and the setting to a few suggestive ends. And sometimes uh, what happens in any story, this can happen, one of the three elements may predominate over the other two. In other words, I would say the writer may construct a story of plot alone, with characters and setting confined strictly to its requirements, or of character alone, with plot and setting just sufficient to display it, or of setting alone, with plot and characters as mere subsidiaries. So, what's your take on this story? What can we say? Is this story which meets all the three requirements, like good plot, character, and setting, or is there any one element which is predominant in the story? What do you think about Into the Wild? What can we call it? It's a story of plot, or story of character, or story of setting? Can you just respond in the chat box? Yeah, already there are some questions, some responses. Very good. Dr. Gajanan Molokar, Neeta Bala, Sahili Rajpur. Yeah, we all agree. So we can call it that Into the Wild is a story of setting. And thank God you all agree with my observation. Now, speaking about the narrator and the point of view given in this story, this is a simple tale, okay? But there are certain symbols in the story as well, or we can draw out if it is not given, because there is no critic over the book yet. This is very popular book, and these are very popular stories. And we have picked no other tiger stories because there are lots of tiger stories. We just picked up a story that underlines the importance of some human values and need and grit a person should have, survival tactics, kind of things. So here the narrator is telling the story, and we can ask these, like the first question mentioned here: are the narrator and the main character the same? Yes. By point of view, we mean from whose eyes the story is being told. So a lot of short stories, story writers tend to tell the story through the character's point of view. There are many examples, and like we can ask, like bringing this point of view in the discussion, we can ask who is the narrator or who is the speaker in the story, and does the author speak through the main character? So we can get question answers like yes, and this could be a good discussion prompt. So we can throw further question: is the story written in the first person, like I point of view? So again, yes. So and is there an all-knowing third person who can reveal what all the characters are thinking and doing at all times and in all places? So no. So these are certain prompts speaking about the narrator and the point of view. Now, let's just discuss about the style and theme of the story. Uh, the author style has always it has something to do with the vocabulary. I mean, the choice of words, we call it diction, the use of imagery, tone, or the feeling of the story. So, and this varies from story to story, even if it is written by the same. So, if I go through these two different write-ups under the same heading, Into the Wild. So, Like the first one speaks about getting lost in the jungle. The second one is about Shazang and the Scarface and all these things. So you will realize that there are different set of words, word register we can call it. There is different use of tone and feeling of the story. So it has to do with the author's attitude toward the subject when we are writing this. And in some stories, the tone can be ironic or humorous or cold or dramatic. So we can ask, is the author's language full of figurative language? So here you will find many examples because he has used many metaphors, adjectives, symbols. So here, when though it is a translation work, we have tried to maintain or retain the soul from the original language. And there is imagery, different imagery used, and we can always discuss about these things, imagination and all these things, so dealing with such kind of stories. And the theme is uh, built on like getting lost and then finding the way. So there is a problem and there is a solution. So this is also one of the 21st century skills that we can bring up in discussion. And like we can have certain activities that like uh, the island activity, asking is angry. Some student is very angry with me. Okay, thank you very much, admin. All participants are keeping you on toes. So I forgot. Yeah, I was talking about the theme. So yeah, the activity, the island. So we can have opinion gap activity where we can tell that there is okay, there is the Third World War going on, and there is only one boat that is leaving for an island down under near New Zealand, Australia somewhere, and we have 12 people, but we can take only 6 people on board. So who will be these 6 people? And some other examples are like this also. This is also one of the example from the NDA and CDS examinations that our students face. Like there is a railway crossing, the train is coming, and there is one elephant, and elephant has entered the village, and there is one child sitting on the railway track. So what will you do? Will you save the child or will you go and tame the elephant? So such kind of activities can be there in the classrooms built on the theme. So this is the theme which gives a lot of liberty to the teacher to build such activities. We call it opinion gap activities, where a lot of spoken English constructions, phrases we can practice. So as a reader, student can focus on what the story is revealing about the topic. And as a student, as a reader, the theme should be expressed as a statement because they have to write these theme or we call it topic sentences in almost all sorts of personal opinion and the inference type questions which are there or activities which are there in the activity sheet. So a general observation about human nature or a revealing fact helps. And you can help your students to write thematic statements like by building a background, like you can ask what is the story about, its general topic, and how it develops, like the climax point we can ask. And we can ask whether there are any patterns in diction and imagery, and is there any significance of such kind of event. Suppose for example, if this happens to you and you are get lost in the jungle, what would you feel? So that is building on the theme. And we can say what is not a theme. So any word or phrase from the passage which we can just copy and paste it, that's not a theme. So we have to tell students not to pick those phrases from the story and just write it in the activity sheet and call it a thematic statement. So it is very important to point out some keywords and thematic statement while dealing with such kind of prose in our classroom. So coming to the latter part of our presentation, sorry, these are some activities given in our textbook. These like we have icebreakers, and icebreakers are there to arouse the background knowledge. Like there is a speaking prompt, again opinion table marking it, and matchmaking about the name of the wildlife sanctuaries and the state they belong. And again there in the post-trading part, there are some discussion prompts and sequencing the sentences in chronological order and true false statements, mind maps, a lot of vocabulary activities there, flow charts, word webs, and choosing appropriate phrases and expressions. So a lot of vocabulary items are there. And then we have the we in the activity part we have an activity about interview, the report writing, and we can also adapt this report writing to writing a blog or writing a travelogue and getting it published in the local newspaper or some English newspaper or in any magazine. So, and blog is a self-publishing after all. So these things, these activities are very creative, and it integrates all the skills there. There is also extension activity like web quest given in the textbook, and that is a good extension activity. Speaking about the adaptations, these steps I follow when I deal with any text, reading text in my classroom. This is for teaching reading, or prose text for we use for reading comprehension. So there are some icebreakers given in the book, and the glossary we call it. In older course books, it was given at the end, and in this course book, it is given while we are reading the text in the margin. But I believe in using this pre-teach vocabulary activity, like just guessing the meaning or matching the word meaning with their names. So pre-teach vocabulary always helps to understand and comprehend any lesson better. And we can also start with a video. You might have seen the latest video on Scarface and the Saya leopards in the second part of Into the Wild. And there are some videos available where Kika is talking to birds and he's expressing. There are many videos available on news channels as well, or when you Google about Kiran Purandar, you will find it. So you can always start with a video. And in the while reading, I have planned this lesson with a lot of prediction, using a lot of prediction tool. Now, some of you must be knowing about the prediction tool. It helps to arouse the curiosity among the learners. Like when we are reading the story, we can stop somewhere in between and we can ask in the classroom, like, what will happen next? What do you think the story will take a turn? So, sorry, this is the last. And in prediction is a tool which is very helpful to carry out the lesson one by one in the staged and phased manner. In the post reading, we can integrate the skills, like we can play out some jungle calls. We can play out the calls of langur or calls of the sambar deer or the spotted deer, because all the animals have a different call. We call it alarm call when we are in jungle, and these alarm calls are they are mentioned in the opening part of the story. So it will be a very engaging activity for our students to identify these alarm calls and identify the name of the animal. So again, it is adding to their 21st century skill of listening to these real life incidents. And we can integrate all such kind of activities together, like for interview writing. It is a skill which focuses on speaking as well as writing. It has the focus. And we can also refer to the original writings, like the book is there in the market. If you get a copy, you are lucky enough to get this. You can show the copy, or we can just do one thing. I will take permission from Kika, and I will post the PDF. I will scan and make the PDF, and will share the Marathi version also. So these original writings are very beautiful. So some of you might have the book as well. I do have one book uh, with me. So you can always go back to the original writings because it's a translation work. You can have the programs like Meet the Writer. You can just call WhatsApp video call to the make a call to the writer, and you can just ask your students to ask any kind of question regarding these things to the author. And you can also organize excursions if you are in Maharashtra or close to Bandara, Nagzira. You can come over to Nagzira in one day and meet this freak called Kiran Purandare. Salute to his great work. At Pitijari village. Pitijari is one of the entry gates to Nagzira. So that gives a lot of that impresses. Actually, one of the factors of short story is to leave an impression on the reader's mind. So such activities can also impress. And finally, you can, as an extension activity, you can ask your students to prepare a documentary on any place. If you are in Mumbai, for example, your students can visit the SGMP, Sanjay Gandhi National Park, Borivali, or if you are in Thane, you can go to some other nearby forest area, and you can ask them to create a documentary or a vlog. Just recently, I had seen in the lockdown time, I had seen one sixth standard girl making a vlog on YouTube, and I watched it. They were visiting some nearby place, and the lockdown was just over, and it was a beautiful vlog by that student. So our students can also do these things, vlogs. They are very much active. So all these things can be adapted while teaching, and the textbook is all yours. The lesson, the story is all yours, and I hope everybody will adapt to their own needs, contexts, and their classroom and their students' needs. And thank you very much for having me here. Now, just this is my email ID and website. If you are interested in some more, if you have some more questions, you can just mail me. Thank you very much. And can we just start talking more about this? Yes. A lot of suggestions in the chat, so I will save the chat for myself. Thank you very much, sir. Are there any questions?
I request participants to raise their queries in the chat box, or they can raise your hands also.
There is one point from Adat VS, sir. It's a travelogue. You are given a story form to it. I think it's not a travelogue, sir. Actually, travelogue is a different form or format of writing. At the very outset, I had mentioned that we can call it an anecdote with a story sequence, because this is taken from a book called Sakha Nagzira. This is the book, okay, a voluminous book, interesting tales. So this is Sakha Nagzira, and there are different stories. You go to any page, and you will find a story there. and these are all arranged in chronological order also at some chapters. So this is not a travelogue. This is a story sequence, and we have taken one such story sequence from this entire book. Yeah, can you suggest any documentary or movie to show students? Yes, there are many. Like Into the Wild is itself a movie, the original one by Krockner. So you can show it, and there are some documentaries made by some of the producers on Kiran Purandare and the second part of Into the Wild, like Shah's Jung. So, like it's already there in the public domain. If you Google it, you will find it. Sure.
I request participants.
Blue bull animal, Aparna Kirange ma'am. Sir, can you please tell me which is the animal blue bull? So blue bull, we call it nilgai. We also call it blue horse or blue bull. Nilgai, have you seen? These are antelopes, blue bulls. A lot of questions went fast, so I'm not able to retrieve all of them.
That is why I request all the participants not to flood the chat box with your thank yous.
Yes, yes,
Well,
please.
Sir is still here and we can thank him afterwards. Please raise your queries only. Prafulla Mavre sir from Facebook has posted that why there are two stories.
Actually, this was a very short story, this part, and we wanted to have more content. Actually, this is a technical thing, I'm sharing it with you, for writing the activities. And secondly, to have a variety in the experience of readers. Like not all the stories that deal with wildlife are informative, or not all the stories that deal with wildlife are thriller stories. So the theme is the same, Into the Wild, but there are two different the theme is same, but there are two different ways to deliver the two different stories. So for having the variety, we had it.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
You're lost, Prabha ma'am.
Yeah, unfortunately, her audio is lost.
hello, sir.
Yeah, madam, please.
Sir, it also focuses on the importance of jungle from tourism point of view.
Yeah. Actually, ecotourism is giving bread and butter to the millions of people, I would say, around living around in these difficult circumstances in the wild habitats.
Yes, sir.
And that you have raised. Like
Yes,
that.
sir.
Yeah, some of you are asking about my email ID. It was there on the last slide, so I will just quickly share it with you once again.
While you do it, simultaneously, I would like to request, sir, from Facebook, there is one question from Kavita Motwani.
Okay.
It says, how can we motivate students in exploring the wildlife, she must be saying.
Yeah, you just take them to the wild and they will never forget that experience. Yeah.
Exactly.
And one more thing I would like to share. We have tiger reserves in many parts of our state, and there are certain schemes that are run by the Tiger Foundations and some NGOs, and they take some students from the nearby villages or the home district to the wildlife sanctuary on their own expenses, the forest department. So it's a very good scheme. You can approach to the wildlife authority and they can really take you there, take you and your students. You can have some contest over there in your school and college, and then you can go with you can take your winners to the wildlife sanctuary. We have one of the participants here is Ashok Gaidani, sir. I just searched his name and he's there. He also runs a Green Friends Nature Club in Sakuli, that is very close to Nagzira. And Ashok Gaidani, sir, is very much active, and he takes his students to bird watching, and they face their faces with tiger colors and all activities throughout the year, and snake rescue also. So he's also very much active in this part. So it's great that you are here, Ashok sir, and he teaches English to the junior college at Sakoli. Great.
Welcome, sir. Thank you for being here on Team Ellis platform. There is a question from Dr. Gajanan Malokar, sir.
Yeah.
Nadeem sir, it is not a question. Just I like to mention one beauty of the plot. It begins with positive note and ends with positive note. It begins
Great,
with his fruitful stay, one-day stay, and it ends with the satisfaction that man has not managed still to destroy the jungle. So we can call
Great.
the plot a circular one also, because it
Great.
begins with positive note and ends with positive note. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to thank Dr. Gajanan sir for this. And this is the advantage of having a fresh literature in our course book, because we are free of any comments from any critics. Already there is no indoctrination in our minds about this plot and character and setting, and we all are unraveling the secrets of these stories by ourselves. So that is a great advantage to have a fresh story.
Vivek Pise from Aurangabad.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
I have one issue. Actually, no, it is not an issue. I would like to ask you, what was the objective of selecting Mr. Purandare's this piece of writing? If you want to give a detailed description about the wildlife, don't you think that Maruti Chitamballi's writing was very intriguing and very informative in nature as well?
Yes, sir. I'm not creating any conflict, and I don't want to, because both are the
not here
great
to create
writers.
This is just an issue, and I would like to ask that he is the writer of great repute. Maruti Chidamballi is a great Marathi writer, and he was the conservationist as well, and he worked as the conservation officer, right?
Yes, yes.
A
He was
vast
there.
variety of novels under his belt.
Right,
So,
right.
why this particular writer? That is my issue.
Sir, I have grown up reading Maruti Chitampalli's books like Pakshi Jaya Digantara, and his writings about the Madhav Jhari in Navegaon, and all these things. Actually, Nagzira is my personal favorite. First thing, I must admit that. When we wanted to have something from environment, so this book has won Maharashtra government's award for best literature also. I'm not creating any conflict, because there are many writers, and even before Maruti Chitampalli sir, there was Venkatesh Madgulkar, who had written about this wildlife and all these things. So there are many writers, but since this was my personal favorite, I went to translate it.
Yes, sir.
That's my personal response. It is not an official statement from Balbharti BOS. That's my personal.
Yes, sir. Exactly. I don't find any question in the chat box also, and as usual, there are so many likes on the Facebook, and actually, I can see Facebook as well as chat box flooded with thank you messages. So
Thank you very much.
I request Manisha Patil madam to thank sir officially.
On behalf of Team LA, I extend a hearty vote of thanks to all who have contributed to this webinar. Team LA's deepest gratitude to Nadeem Khan sir. I would like to quote here a few lines written by William Arthur Ward. The mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, the great teacher inspires. That was an inspirational lecture, Dr. Nadeem Khan sir. You have enlightened us how to teach this lesson effectively. An honorable mention to our mentors, Mr. Avinash Rade sir and Anil Bagade sir, for their motivation and dedicated support. A special thanks to Team Elle for their support and contribution. A heartfelt thanks to all the keynote speakers, Mr. Parveen Mure sir, Dr. Shobra Roy, Dr. Suhasini Jadhav ma'am, Dr. Gajanan Malukar sir, Mrs. Jayashree Changle madam, Saibra Majan sir, Jyoti Mani madam on Facebook. And if I've let out anyone, I humbly apologize for that. And also I thank all the teacher participants, students from entire Maharashtra on the Facebook for their participation. Now I request our president, Sunil Patil sir, to take over.
Thank you, ma'am. And you rightly said that certainly it's going to stimulate our ideas. After this instructive and free spoken session, I'm inviting you to attend another educative webinar. And the topic for the webinar is our newly added writing skill, statement of purpose. And we will be enlightened by Dr. Sangeeta Godke. So see you all tomorrow, same time, same platform. Till then, from our side, goodbye. Have a nice day. Thank you.